Hello, everyone. Thank you for giving me this chance to share some of my opinions regarding diaspora community of Hong Kong. As a long-term supporter of the Hong Kong democracy movement, based on the experience and the lessons learned from decades of involvement with China's overseas political exile groups and overseas pro-democracy movement, I have some perhaps unpleasant comments to offer here. Firstly, looking at history, political exile is an extremely challenging path. It's not only because facing life's challenge, but more importantly, maintaining the spirit of the movement, never giving up on ideals, and keeping on fight for one's goals over a long period of time, it would be very difficult. In this regard, exile groups with religious beliefs, such as the Tibetans and the Falun Gong practitioners, have excellent at overcoming this challenge. There are two reasons for this. One, they have their own religious beliefs as inner support, not just relying on political ideals. Two, these religion groups have one leader, such as the Dalai Lama and Li Hongzhi of Falun Gong. Such leaders do not require elections, and they enjoy authority due to their religion status. However, political exile groups often lack natural leaders and can instead experience conflict during the competition for political leadership. This issue is not exclusive to Chinese overseas pro-democracy movement. Other political exile groups from various countries face similar problems. Politics, naturally involve power struggles, which is normal. Nevertheless, due to these challenges, maintaining long-term unity among political exile groups is difficult. This will soon be a challenge facing Hong Kong exile groups, I believe, and you should start considering establishing mechanisms to effectively address the issue of maintaining political unity. It's very crucial. Otherwise, once the exile community fractures and the internal conflict arise, the credibility of the exile movement will diminish. Secondly, I personally believe the Hong Kong exile community must be mentally prepared that as long as the Chinese Communist Party remain in power, leaving Hong Kong may be relatively easy, but returning will be much harder. In this regard, having overly optimistic views should be avoided. During the Chinese overseas pro-democracy movement in 1989, many people believed they could return to China soon. But now, as you can see, 34 years later, we are still cannot go back to China. If mental preparation exists, the strategic preparation for long-term exile should be made. Here are some suggestions from me. First, the international community currently sympathizes with Hong Kong and pays great attention to the situation of Hong Kongers in exiles. This is undoubtedly encouraging. However, based on my past experiences, Western countries are more concerned with their domestic issues and events in their own territories when confronting the Chinese Communist Party. Where initial support will be strong, it tends to become not so strong over time. Hong Kong exiles should not place excessive hope in support from their host countries. Such support will persist but mostly on moral ground, and the practical support will gradually diminish. This is not a complaint anyway, rather it's a recognition that circumstances are always changing. New hot topics emerge, and no country or government can focus on a single issue in the long term. Therefore, I suggest that Hong Kong exile groups be prepared to rely on their own network for survival and struggle abroad. With a larger overseas Hong Kong community that has already immigrated over the past 2 or 3 decades being the real force to provide support. Hong Kong people's concerns are what matter most. The so-called international front is, in reality, time-limited and cannot be relied upon for the long term. Second, as a political exile group, sustaining overseas resistance movement poses a challenge in terms of finance. If a major exile group cannot sustain their staff's salaries in the long run, or even address their own personal survival, the banner of Liberate Hong Kong Revolution of our times may not keeping as long as hoped. In my experience and suggestion, during the initial phase of exile, fundraising still has some room. Where political donations are available now, the fund raised should be used smart for long-term planning, such as investing in real estate. I'm not kidding. This not only provides a base for the exile community, but also offers potential appreciation. Political donations are short-term, and the road ahead is long. Without financial support, this path will be challenging to sustain. My third piece of advice is for the young generation of Hong Kong to build broad alliance networks based on political ideals rather than dividing people. I say this because from my over 2 decades of experience abroad, despite the differing target of various exile groups against the authoritarian rule of the Chinese Communist Party, there often exists a mutual exclusion between these groups. Using Hong Kong as an example, I'm aware that a portion of the young generation, especially supporters of Hong Kong independence, are highly concerned about distinguishing between Hong Kong and the mainland Chinese identity. In their view, Hong Kong is Hong Kong, China is China, each minding their own business without interference. The psychological divide between us and them is indeed present. Not all young Hong Kongers share this perspective, I know, but even if a portion of them do, I believe it's not conducive to long-term exile resistance effort. You have to know, among the global Chinese diaspora today, mainland Chinese immigrants constitute a significant majority. Many of them may still be influenced by Chinese Communist Party's propaganda, embracing a united China ideology. But however, it's undeniable that more and more Chinese immigrants who have left China for various reasons become dissatisfaction with the regime. Otherwise, they wouldn't have left. Therefore, they are keen to support anti-communist activities in places like Taiwan or support Hong Kong. They constitute a substantial support base and the foundation of mass sentiment. It's not wise to simply reject all of Chinese population. In this regard, I believe the Tibetan exile community set a remarkable example in handling their relationship with Han Chinese. The Dalai Lama has consistently advocated for welcome Han Chinese support for Tibetan causes. There is extensive contact and interaction between overseas Chinese exile groups and the Tibetan exile groups, and the Tibetan government in exile has dedicated institutions and representatives to engage with overseas Han Chinese. They invite Chinese representatives to Dharamsala every year to visit, exchange ideas, and engage in dialogue. I believe this showcases the political wisdom of Dalai Lama. The Tibetan exile movement's enduring strength over several decades is closely tied to this political wisdom. Hong Kong, too, should consider learning from the political strategies of Dalai Lama. Furthermore, Be Water. Be Water, the street protest strategy put forth during the Hong Kong anti-extradition movement, was remarkably successful, with no central stage or leader enabling the movement to be powerful. However, using such a strategy is more complicated in the diaspora, as rapid online calls may not readily translate into physical gathering. Where Hong Kong's protest movement thrived with its confined space, once abroad, its effectiveness could be questionable. The Hong Kong resistance diaspora is not concentrated in one place, but spread across different countries, such as the United States, United Kingdom, Australia, Canada, and more. If efforts continue to organize and mobilize exile groups abroad based on Be Water strategy, I believe it will be very difficult. We need to reconsider Be Water strategy. Lastly, among the young Hong Kong exiles I've encountered, some are unsure of their own and Hong Kong's future, and uncertain about when the exile life will come to an end. To them, I have something to say. For an idealist, what matters most is not the destination, but the journey. For Hong Kong, what matters most is not whether we can return to Hong Kong in the future, but rather before that, whether we can uphold the spirit of Hong Kong. Therefore, I believe, even though we are in exile, every day of our exile carries significant meanings. That's what I want to say. Thank you.